Now comes part two, the domain and range and the invariant points, and actually calculating what are the exact values of these invariant points. This becomes kind of interesting. Let's talk about domain and range first. Let's see what happens here. Well, one of the most important things to remember here is that what were our critical points? Our critical points were at -3 and +2 in this particular situation. So take a look at this. If you think about this, our domain is actually probably the easiest one to figure out. Domain is x can be any real number as long as it's not -3 and +2, not permissible values. The rest is like, that's it. Okay, it's the range that becomes kind of weird because remember the range now is broken up into two sections. This section here, which is above y = 0, and this section here, which is below your vertex, which was 0.16, -0.16, which is your vertex, which was right there. Remember, that was a -0.5, -0.16. So it's got to be below this. And it's these critical points, again, which tell us how to go about doing this. Okay, so I want to look at this part of the graph here, and I will want to look at this part of the graph, which is this part here. Think about it. We can get close to -3 and +2 as long as we don't touch this. So when you're talking about the value of x being less than -3 and the value of x being greater than +2, that's this section, which is less than -3, and this section here, which is greater than +2, we know our y value has to be above that horizontal asymptote, which is right there, which is 0. But now, take a look at this. When we're between, when the x is between -3 and +2, so bigger than -3, less than 2. Notice no equals here because they're not permissible values. You're not allowed to be equal. So they're always going to be greater than or less than signs, not equal to. Okay, so if you look at that, you're looking at this guy, this part of the graph, which is this section here. And if you think about it, the maximum is this vertex, very much like chapter 3. There's your maximum. This tells you then, when you're between this, your y actually has to be less than -0.16. That's where this has to be. There's your full range. So when you're over -3 and 2, so when you're over here, right, okay, it's above 0. But when you're between the two, your maximum, of course, is your vertex, which is very, very cool. Okay, now let's take a look at those invariant points, shall we? Okay, so there's our domain and there's our range. I'm going to take a second, I'm going to clear this off, and then we're going to start looking at the invariant point. Okay, invariant points. Now that I've got a clean graph, let's take a look at this. Invariant points, you know, happen when it hits this y = 1 here and y = 1 here. So look at the original graph. The original graph was x² + x - 6. That's when it hits 1. So you're going to have 2 points, this point and this point right here. Okay, so let's figure out what that is. Bring up your calculator. I just did x² + x - 6, put in 1. I hit the graph of this. I'm going to find now where do they intersect. So second calc, find the intersect 5, and I'm going to do this one. Enter, 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 and I'm going to find it's at 2.19. So one of my invariant points here is in fact right here at 2.19. That's this guy right here. 2.19. I'm going to find the other invariant point by hitting again second calc, and I'm going to find the intersect 5, and I'm going to have to mouse it all the way over here, right there, enter, 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 and find that this is at -3.2. -3.2, which is this invariant point right here. Boom. -3.2. Perfect. Okay, we're good. There's our invariant points, there and there. But what about the invariant points here and here? Well, don't forget, we can also make this x² + x - 6 equaling to -1. Aha! So go back to your calculator here and change this y equal to now -1 and hit graph and find out those values. Here it comes, ba-da-boom. That's where it's going to be equal to. Second calc, find the intersect 5, which is going to be here. Okay, come on, here it goes. There we go. Enter, enter, enter. We find that value at 1.79. So 1.8, that's close enough. Okay, so this point here is at 1.8. And let's find this guy over here, which again, we go second calc, and we find the intersect 5, and we mouse over to this side now. Enter, 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 and we got -2.8. So at -2.8. That's how you would find these exact values for the invariant points. So that's why I broke this up into 2 podcasts. Otherwise, you would have been here for 15 minutes, and that's, whew, long enough as it is.